2028, one Big Mac will equal $1 million. From the Gospel of John McAfee. Bro, just learn to code. The Project Freedom Podcast.
Boom. I'm Josh, and welcome to the Project Freedom Podcast, episode number 16, where we discuss anything and everything that has to do with sovereign individualism and being free. And tonight, guys, I have a very special guest. This was the guest that I was trying to have on last Monday for you guys, and he was having a good time in Vegas, so we had to do it today. Guys, welcome Andrew Esquire from Legal Mindset. What's up, man?
How's it going, man? That was a banger. Your intro is a banger. Like, I'm getting hyped up when I hear that thing coming in.
How do you like it? It's pretty funny, huh?
I love that, man. I love it, man. And it's good to be here, Josh. I was really sad I missed you in Vegas, but look, I wanted to come up, clear connection. We're set up. We're at home. We're both in Miami, the basest state in the United States right now.
Oh, man.
I mean, like, literally, there is not a better place to be. Whenever I come back here, I'm like absolutely the most happy because this place is freaking amazing. And what's up to everybody in the chat? I mean, you've got like a badass chat here, man, because these are all guys I know. I met Nick Sledge. I know Solomon. You know, there's some red pill legends down in there.
Yeah, we got some soldiers in here. Let's check up with them real quick. So we got Max and Nitas in the house first. Yes, Max, you were indeed first. Clay Buster. Hey, Clay, I was watching one of the videos the other night, and I realized that your name was Clay Buster, and then I looked at the avatar, and I realized it was a busted Clay. I was like, wow, that makes sense. Babe Honker reporting in. What's up, man? Good to see you. Christian Soto, Big Mac emojis in the chat. This guy right here, he's the guy who made my intro, Andrew.
So what a badass! Props to Christian.
Nick, fire signs in chat. What's up, my friend? Tom Graff, ready for this one. Nick Sledgian says, watch out, lawyers inbound. Get the onion. Pablo says, you're late. Yes, Pablo, we were late, but it was for a good reason. Solo says, I'm so ready to get freed. And speaking of freedom, we got the man of freedom in the house tonight for sure.
All about
Carl W, heavy breathing. And yeah. So, Andrew, I guess, why don't we just so you're a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell everybody, I guess, about you and your channel. So what are you all about? And if you want to talk about your channel too and your personal stuff, but just kind of give everybody a little quick breakdown.
Yeah, so let me break this down for you guys. So obviously, if you guys don't know, I'm Andrew Esquire. Now, Esquire is a moniker because, as you know, if you're spitting the red pill truth, if you're talking facts on YouTube, you will get canceled, you will get thrown out. So I said from the beginning that when I came on YouTube, I just wanted to talk facts. As a lawyer, there's a lot of bad information, not just bad legal information, because the biggest lawyers, the biggest contributors on YouTube, the biggest commentators are literally all shilling for the left. They're shilling for the blue pill. They're shilling for disinformation. They're trying to keep you in the rat race. They want to keep you enslaved, and they want to keep you ignorant as to what's going on and where to go in the future, right? So I said, fuck that. I'm going to start my own channel. I'm going to spit facts. I'm going to talk from a red pill lawyer standpoint, and a lot of the other lawyers are older. They're kind of boomers, Gen X maybe. But I said, I'm going to come at this from a young guy, coming in with red pill truths, coming in with facts, looking at things straight up the correct way. And that's how I started this, especially during the pandemic. You all know, our freedoms were the most at risk, right? So that's why I started my channel, really, was because our freedoms were just being taken away left and right. It was completely unconstitutional, completely illegal. Nobody was challenging it, right? So I had to get out there and talk about it because literally it was like getting away with murder every single freaking day. It was against the facts. It was against the law. It was definitely against the science, no matter what they say, right? So as a person who cares so much about freedom, and as a lawyer, I say this as a lawyer, but frankly, it's the best if their laws are minimal, right? If the laws maximize freedom and pretty much are only there to just enforce as much as needed. It's like as little pressure as necessary, right? In order to get stuff done. And that's what I stand for, and that's what I would support, is just as light of a hand as it takes and as light of a push as it takes, because the free market and free individuals, we're going to talk about sovereign individuals, great book, by the way, which I just finished reading. And that is where we need to be going. That is the future, because once again, that's going to be the most effective governments, the most effective laws, the most effective people are going to be the most free people in the future.
Yeah, man, totally agree. And by the way, guys, this is the most based lawyer you guys have ever seen in your entire lives. I have to admit. But yeah, Andrew. Okay, so like, I had a show the other night, and I was talking about some of this stuff actually. And one of the things I was talking about was kind of like the inception of the United States of America. If you think back and look at it, I mean, essentially in the beginning, we were just kind of like a union of a bunch of different kind of like, I don't know if they were considered states back then or whatever.
Not even. There was a commonwealth of groups, like it's almost like a commonwealth of nations in the beginning, It's like each was their own little independent nation, and they were agreeing to come together. We were super independent, right? Of course, our original agreement, did not work out. We had to go into a stronger union. Now, there's lots of reasons for that. I think it was a product of the time, right? Because when you're fighting the British Empire, you need a strong centralized government, right? When you're fighting the most powerful empire on the earth at the time, you need a strong centralized government. But we are no longer in that era. We're not in the industrial era. We're not dealing with industrial era problems. We are in the information era. And upgrading, you can't just look at laws and things that existed at the beginning of this country, right? You've got to look at them. Okay, how do we update those and apply those in the future, right? A lot of people don't understand that. Now, I stand by the principles that I believe is what this country was founded on. I believe it was founded on liberty and freedom, but you get away from that, right? A country like France, their motto is liberty, equality, fraternity, right? They are like one of the least free countries right now. They're literally going to require you to get and I don't say the word because I don't want to trigger the algorithm, but I call it the Fauci juice. They're gonna require you to prove you've gotten the Fauci juice to go to cafes and supermarkets and malls. So these countries that started on certain principles have wandered far, far away from them.
Yeah, and so we're kind of the complete opposite now of what the country had started out with, right? And I think like. It's crazy, man, because what you also said earlier too, it's like when you think about a quote unquote government, right? Like you think that you don't want it to be like, for example, you don't want a government to be like 50% of the country's population, right? And I'm not saying that we're 50%, but the point of that is like you want the most minimum amount of interference as possible that's required and necessary to keep people from like, going like freaking out and just like killing each other, right? Mm-hmm. And we're not like that at all anymore, right?
No. In fact, I would even argue that we're controlled by minorities, right? I mean, by a minority of the population is controlling 100% of the population, right? Because not everybody is voting, right? And not everybody is engaged. Not everybody is well informed. That's another thing. And not everybody is contributing to society. That's another thing, which is big about, and we'll get into that when we talk about digital nomadism, moving around, being a sovereign individual. But, you've got these states where you've got a lot of people who are not contributing to society, but they're certainly withdrawing from it. They're certainly taking from it. Right. And that's a huge thing when people are profiting from the hard work of other people. That's a detriment. And that's going to be more and more of a detriment as we go forward.
Yeah, for sure. And like, man, there's when I was getting ready to talk to you last week, I had like all kinds of questions to ask about like, what do you think about what's currently going on in the current worldwide situation? And dude, in just like 1 week, like
where to start though, Josh? Because like, what do you like where do you want to start? Because what do I think about the vaccine stuff or the politics or Cuba, right? Cuba's a big one right now, which is crazy. Josh and I are across the bay. It's 90 miles from Cuba, from where we're at right now in Miami. A little bit more than that, but we're close enough. The point of the matter is that, you've got a situation where we're saying right now, hey, we're America. We supposedly love freedom, but not if you're Cuban or Haitian. Because if you're Cuban or Haitian, we don't like you because we don't think you're going to vote the way we want you to vote. But if you come to our other border, that's totally cool. And you totally will get granted asylum there because we think you're going to vote the way we want you to vote. So once again, there's there's lots of inequality being created. And the more that inequality is created, the more opportunity there is for forming new associations, new bonds, new governments, because people are becoming more and more unsatisfied and are realizing this is a bum deal. This is a really bum deal for them to take this much of my money. And what am I getting for it? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And okay, so we can talk about the Cuban thing right now since that just came up.
Yeah.
So you think I would have to agree with what you said earlier, but okay, so like it doesn't make sense to me as to why they'd be so hard pressed to have as many people from out of the country come and live here, basically, right? To just come in and migrate here, regardless whether they do it through legal or illegal means. But the people that are the closest to us that are literally under a DICTATOR ship, right? And they don't want them to come. And I think I believe the same thing. It's like they don't like. Why don't don't they feel bad for those people? Don't they care that those people are like suffering?
The reality is they don't give a shit, and the reality is that they selectively care. They don't care that these people are actually on ration books. You know, I talk about my friend who, whenever she goes back, she brings medical equipment because they don't have clean syringes and IV bags in Cuban hospitals, right? And yet Michael Moore, all these other people, you know, in Sicko, if you remember that old movie, they're simping for the Cuban medical system, saying, "Oh, it's free and they have so many doctors." Okay, who cares? Their equipment is trash. Right? They have real problems, like actual real problems, and they're being oppressed by a dictatorship, right? That is throwing them in jail, that is disappearing them, right? That is like square on asylum. That's like exactly what asylum is supposed to be for, right? And remember, asylum is legal. It's if you're going through an asylum process, that's 100% legal, right? It's different than you're just jumping the border and like having no excuse, or you know, you're not going through any sort of process. Asylum is one thing, right? Coming on a work visa is another thing too, right? I would never go to a country without some sort and work without any some sort of permission. But we'll talk about ways digital nomads can get around that later. I'm really excited about that. But you know, these Cubans, they have family here. They have people to support them. Miami is so pro-Cuba. In fact, 25% of the Cuban economy is based on remittances. That's money that's being sent back. So we know they've got people who've got their back here. You know, Haiti is a much poorer country, but even Haiti, there are Haitians in Miami. There's a Haitian community in here that will support them, right? I mean, they can come and there will be stuff for them to do here. There's communities to support them. So we should let them in. I mean, we should let those guys in. I mean, it doesn't matter whether or not we think they're going to vote our way. That's like square on the nose, on its face. You know, good cases for asylum in the United States, and also communities that have been proven to integrate. Cubans have really, I mean, in Miami, Josh, if you walk around, you've been here, but a lot of people who are Hispanic, you wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't even know it because they speak fluent English. They look very European. You know, you wouldn't know that they happen to be from Cuba generationally. You have no idea.
Yeah, man, and I don't want to make like a generalized statement here, but like I would definitely say, in my experience, every person I know here that's Cuban is extremely hardworking, and they're extremely grateful to just be here and be free, or at least be more free than where they're at right now. And the same exact people that came here from Cuba, or their family, you know, escaped here from Cuba, if they talk to them, they're against everything that this whole like strange agenda is being pushed right now, even though the media would make it seem like it's not like that, right? They don't want people to know.
They want it to be white people versus everybody who's not white, you know? But then it's funny because after the last election, when Miami voted very much to the right, but the biggest of any major city, Miami voted the most red. It would still ended up on the blue flip, but it was so close. It was like so close. Why is that? Because the based-ass Venezuelans and Cubans were voting to the right. You still have city people. You still have, you know, other communities here that are voting blue. But what I'm saying is that we, of all cities, were the most red. And, you know, why is that? Because these people know what socialism is. They know what those laws do. They know what those regulations do. They know it leads down a dark road, and they don't want that. They don't want to be called Latinx. You know, I saw it the other day. Somebody called Latinx. Nobody. I grew up in Miami. Nobody here wants Latinx. Nobody's asking for that. That's some white liberal from Yale or Harvard or somewhere, Berkeley, probably UC Berkeley, you know, who's like imposing that on us here. And they don't want it. They don't want it because they know what it is to work hard. They have no problem working hard. They have no problem starting their own business. If they came over here on a raft and braved sharks, I don't think they care if someone, you know, calls them Hispanic or Latina or Latino. I don't think they're going to be worried about being misgendered.
Yeah, dude, totally agree. And man, it's funny because like all those same people that are pushing that kind of agenda they're pretty much all old white people, and I feel all I have to say is, without getting super personal, I feel really bad for people who believe the just absolute trash and garbage that's being pushed from that side of the people, and honestly, I would say the DEMOCRATIC party. I sit here.
Josh, you're crazier than I am. I'm pretty good at not saying what I need to say, but YouTube does monitor. I see my stuff go limited monetization all the time. Sometimes I don't monetize it simply because I know it's going to trigger the algorithm.
Right.
But, the sad thing is we have to do that. That's why I actually created a locals, because I can have base conversations there without having to worry about it. But it's scary that we have to do that when we're spelling shit out, right? And
working shame, dude. It's a shame that we in the year 2021.
We live in America. We don't live in China.
Yeah, dude. They're probably more. They probably are more free in China.
Because
I don't really know about that, but
they're using VPNs and they're just accessing it, regardless. Although I do have a question for you later in this, and remind me, I'm gonna put a flag in this because I was on this guy Eric Hundley's channel. He's a good guy, new journalist. He works with a lot of lawyers, and he was talking to me about the capability of countries to shut down crypto. So I just want to put a pin in that. We'll get to that one, but that's.
We're definitely gonna hit on that for a little bit too.
Yeah.
But that party that starts with a D. I would venture to say that they aren't this facade that they put on. Look, I guess if you were to categorize me on paper as someone who votes one way or whatever, I guess you would say you could categorize me as someone to the right. But dude,
you're hard right, Josh, based on me knowing your views. Because anybody who isn't, here's this thing: anybody who doesn't drink the Kool-Aid and say exactly what the left wants to say is alt-right.
Right. But exactly. And that's what they want everyone to think. But dude, I'm a classic liberal. I fucking hate that phrase, but man,
I'm a classic liberal too. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in and kind of, almost towards libertarianism, but once again, I believe in very minimal government. I don't believe in censorship. Yeah. I remember growing up, I believed in a lot more liberal ideas because they were doing stuff like regulating video games. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
The war on porn and stuff like that. I'm like, no, let the porn happen. I love Sterling Cooper. Shout out to Sterling Cooper. He has a right to run his business and let him run it. And if you want to regulate it a little, maybe a tiny bit, but really, otherwise, just let it happen. I agree. Okay, we don't want minors, right, to be sex trafficked and stuff. Okay, yeah, that I'm cool with. But aside from that, let people do it. Who cares? And it used to be the right that was censoring those things. It used to be the right, But those same kind of milquetoast Republicans, the Bushes, the Cheneys, the neocons, right? I was very opposed to that. I don't agree with warmongering. I think this whole attack, being America's policeman, attacking everybody on Earth. I don't think that's smart, and I definitely don't think it's in our country's long-term best interest, right? Economically or militarily or whatever, right? It's a very old school way of wielding power. It's definitely not fifth generational or fourth generational. I forget what the generation is. It's not the next level of warfare, right? You have, physical warfare, right? And then you have informational and economic warfare. And that's where we're going. We're in the information and economic warfare era. And to be shooting Tomahawk missiles is we might as well be, flying Zeppelins or, throwing TNT, off the train.
Right. No. Yeah. And that's part of it too. This is an information war essentially. And they want people to believe that what they're telling them to believe is for freedom or whatever, but it's not. I was saying earlier, I actually place freedom above everything, literally everything. I probably might be a little bit extreme in that manner than most people, but in the way that I see it, I want as little regulation on my life as possible because, quite frankly, I just want to be able to do what I do and just fucking be left alone, man. And I think that if it doesn't harm anybody and it doesn't go out of the way to take anyone's money or harm anybody, then there should be as minimal regulation on things as possible. And that's what the Democratic Party used to be for. That's what they used to be about, but they're not anymore at all, just like you had mentioned.
Yeah.
And so
complete flip.
Yeah. And now it's just basically a war of information and what they want people to believe and what they want people to see and think. And it's all just, honestly, it's, again, like I said earlier, dude, I just feel bad for people who just don't don't understand it, and I don't know if it's like because the average normie is just unintelligent, or if they're just like if it's hard to just unprogram like 20 years of that stuff.
There it is. You got it right there. It's hard to unplug from the matrix, right? Because you are programmed for this stuff, and you got to think about it, Josh. Everything we have, not just art, it's not just schools or universities, but everything puts you in this mindset to become part of the system, right? Even if you're like red team or blue team, right? That's still kind of thinking as part of the system. You have to think broader than that if you want to think about your own personal freedom, right? Because I hate to break it to you, this sounds crazy, but it's not. It's that, yes, there are, political parties that are better or worse, right, for freedom, but neither one is going to help you with your individual freedom. That is something that you, especially in this era, have to take on yourself to guarantee that, right? You have to be the guardian of your personal freedom, right? That's why my slogan, on my channel is be your own judge, right? Because you are responsible for it. It's about personal responsibility, right? You have to be the one to make those decisions. You cannot offload that decision on the government, can't offload it on your parents, can't offload it on society, can't offload it on toxic masculinity. That's on you. Like, that's the point. And there's no excuse in the information age not to get that information. It is out there. You just need to do your own research. Like when you're investing in crypto, do your own research, right? And get that information. That is on you guys. And, if you don't do it, sucks to suck. And there's going to be a whole class of people that are doing, like you said, Josh, it's the easiest way. It's the path of least resistance. And they're going to stay in it as long as they can. And they're going to be fucked. They're going to ultimately be screwed. Those are the people who don't own any crypto, right? Who don't have any information era skills, who aren't ready, who are not mobile. They are not prepared to be digital nomads. They're going to be the serfs of the 21st century.
Yeah, for sure. That's something we talk about on this channel a lot. And I'm glad you pointed out that be your own boss, be your own judge, and be your own boss and be your own judge. I don't know which way you say it, but every time
I say be your own judge, but it is the same thing. I mean it that way. I think the ultimate be your own judge is to be your own boss. Because if you are beholden to somebody, right, you have a master and you have to please that master. Now, in America, I understand, look, I right now still have corporate masters, right? That doesn't mean that I'm not trying to break out of the, slave pen, of the corporate slave pen. But that being said, I understand, when you understand Red Pill Truce, if you've read 48 Laws of Power, also a good book is Workplace Poker. That's another great book. You understand how to play these things and how to free yourself. You can start working on it. First thing is information. First thing is the mindset. Then you start working on it, right? Now you've got the skills. Now you've heard from, and then you learn skills from Josh. You learn how to code, right? You learn how to program, right? You get the skills and you get yourself out.
Yeah, and it's all about yourself too, and that's why I was actually going to ask you what you meant by that, but by that phrase, but you already explained it because I like it a lot. Like it basically just takes self-ownership and self-responsibility, right? Not having to be dependent off of some sort of some sort of overlord to tell you what to think and
or even on the system, And the reason why I also say it is, and this may sound crazy, but when someone's saying lawyers here get the onions, hey, I'm that guy. I'm the guy who calls out lawyers because a lot of times I don't want my audience, I don't want anybody listening to me to need a lawyer. If you're able to listen to my channel and make your own decision and avoid it, that's much better. If I advise somebody, if I'm talking to Josh and I'm giving him legal advice or not legal advice, I'm going to tell him to try to avoid going into a lawsuit, to try to avoid getting himself into trouble, right? Because that's not the best thing. If you can make your own decision, understand what the law is, and then make your own decision understanding that outcome is much more efficient, it's much more effective than if you have to go through the legal process or call the cops or rely on the government. The less you have to do that, the better position you're in.
Yeah, and guys, he's not lying. I've seen him call out other lawyers on his channel. By the way, Andrew, my grandpa was a lawyer, and he used to do that too. So I thought that was hilarious. Like he was always trying to get rid of like some scumbag, just trying to like use people for their money.
And unfortunately, that's a lot of us. It's a lot of us. It's a lot of us, and it's a lot of us out there. We charge a lot of money. We charge by the hour, and frankly, a lot of times it's ridiculous, and the value is not there.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say that that's not true for sure. Let me get caught up with the chat real quick. So Antonio says, Michael Moore went to the most expensive hospital that only the elite can afford in Cuba to push his agenda. Yeah, I mean, like, why do you think he would do that? He wanted to film. He didn't want people to see. I mean, guys, how many people on that in that country do you think actually can go to like a really nice hospital that need it? I'd venture to say probably none, very few, right? Probably like on one hand.
Yeah, the 2 hands maybe max.
Yeah, maybe 2 hands. I'd say probably less than 10%, but in all honesty, it's probably less than 1%, right? Like I'm willing to bet that even like the people that are in there and work for the government, they're probably they're kind of like, you know, slaves too. They're just like nicer slaves. But Christian Soto says, "Thank you, Andrew, for the music. Would have typed earlier, but I was cooking." Nick says, "I live in Key West, and Cubans are the hardest working and super grateful to be here." Yeah, Nick, I have experienced nothing but the exact same. There's a guy who does maintenance in my condo, and he's like super nice, and he's like, man, when I first moved here, he's like, man, you have to love Miami. This is freedom. This is freedom. It's the first interaction I had with like someone here, and he basically told me that, yeah, this place is like freedom, and because in a way, you know, Florida kind of is like part of the last leg of freedom right now. But to him too, like just being able to come here from where he was, it's freedom, man. And then Nick says, like Andrew said, Cubans assimilate well, and they're based Cubans. Antonio says we should do an exchange program where all the lefties/Ds go there and live their socialism dream, while the Cubans who want to be free can come here. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Let me say one thing too, is that most of those people, most of the people who are Democrats on the left, they have not traveled. And one thing I'll tell all of you, like straight up, is the best thing you can do is travel. And you know, go with an open mind. Don't go with a particular bias, but just see how other people live. And there's always pros and cons. There's pros and cons to every single freaking country, culture, everything, right? And these places that they call ideal, let's say France or Cuba, right? They're far from ideal. They have lots of issues, right? I can't remember a time I've been in France and they haven't been on strike in some sort of, you know, sector of their economy, which is a massive issue, right? Their banks are about to fail, you know? So once again, traveling and getting out there is so vital. And these leftists, these Democrats, they're losers. They haven't gone anywhere. They're broke, you know?
Honestly, man, I don't even think they're really Democrats, to be honest with you, but
I think they're just writing what's popular, right? Because when mainstream media is doing it, social media is supporting it. I mean, when you go by, I was in the mall the other day at City Center, Brickell City Center, and you see these black squares on their wall about racial equity and also the bullshit. They're just writing away for marketing purposes, right?
They don't care.
The rainbow flag, they don't care about, you know, LGBTQ rights. They just care about signaling and purchasing. Yep.
Dollar bills. Waldemir says, yeah, that X stuff is silly, and he says, drink the juice. I think he's talking about the Fauci juice or the
X stuff? The Fauci juice.
Nick also says, 100%, how do you tell a fish he's swimming in water? It's so far beyond people's consciousness. Yeah, and that's the thing that I talk about all the time, like, is like people just refuse to be able to go into that second gear of thinking. Like, just it's uncomfortable for them. And I always try to relate it to the first time, you know, you drive a manual. Maybe some people can get in the first gear the first time, and then they just, you know, they're like, all right, I can just go 20 miles per hour, and then, you know, that's it. But if they ever have to go over 20 and get into second gear, they're like, oh, it's too scary. What if I like crash? So, you know, people just can't do it. Tom Graff says Luddites. I'm not sure what that means exactly.
Luddites was a group. Actually, talk about it in the Sovereign Individual book. But that was a group of people who they actually were the threshers in ancient England that would go out there and like cut the crops. And they had these very specialized long axes and saws, and is a specialized job. So when they had machines, automated threshers that went out there, they rebelled. And they said, we're going to break all the machines, destroy the machines because they're going to steal our jobs. Well, you know, aside from some local rioting, some local issues, they couldn't stop the technological revolution. These people are going to be left behind. These are going to be the people that are, you know, whether they're the no-coiners or they just don't have any skills, right, to stay up with the information age. They're going to be the people who are left behind in this new era.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot too, and we should talk about that next, I guess. Max says Fauci gang, and then he shows the juicy emojis. Waldemar says the root answer in all documentary movies is personal responsibility. Yeah. I mean, the root answer to life is personal responsibility, except pretty much like 99% of the people on the planet just don't want it. They're just like, oh, I don't want it. Antonio says, watch a video from a Soviet Union KGB defector named Yuri Bezmenov. What's happening here happened in the Soviet Union. Things go too far left and then get destroyed before they get better. I don't know, guys. If you remember when I talked about that cycle, it's just all we've had throughout human history is basically just been this retarded cycle, quite frankly. And And hopefully, one day we can break it, because now we actually have the technological capabilities to do so. But a lot of that's going to be on people as well. Waldemar also says, with great responsibility comes great power, not the other way around. When you use the power you have wisely, you get more. I would agree with that. So, Andrew, since we're talking about the no coiners over here.
Yeah.
So, all right. I don't know if you heard from one of my favorite clowns in the current news cycle, Jerome Powell. He was getting.
Jesus. Yeah, you have to trigger me anytime you mention the Fed. I'm like triggered,
No, he's my best friend. I like him a lot. Trust me.
Yeah.
He was getting questioned the other day about CBDCs, or essentially central bank digital currencies. And what he was saying was that, and also Janet Yellen was a part of this. Janet Yellen, and then also Liz Warren were all a part of this.
That's a clown car right there.
Oh yeah,
Yellen, Warren, and Powell. Damn.
Yeah, can't get any worse than that, right?
Yeah.
But basically, what he was saying was that if we had a Fed coin, if we had a central bank digital currency, then we wouldn't have a need. Then there would be no need for cryptocurrencies or stable coins. And he was referring to he could have just said crypto in general, but he was referring to, let's just say Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC, or Tether, like any stable coin, whatever, all of them, right? And I actually have a video that I'm going to be finishing up with tonight about that. But I just wanted to know, like, your opinion. It seems to me that they don't that he doesn't. Maybe he does understand, or he's just really stupid. That they don't understand the difference between a decentralized piece of software, like, let's just say the Bitcoin network, for example, versus a central banking system implemented software. How do you feel about that, as far as like how that goes?
Okay, well, obviously, I think these guys know a lot more about crypto than they're letting on. I mean, that's the one thing, is they understand it way more, and they're downplaying it intentionally. Because here's the thing. When the Fed, for example, when Jerome Powell even hints a little bit about interest rates, if he says, oh, well, we might increase interest rates in the future, the whole market panics, right? There's a stock market sell-off, there's all these effects. If Jerome Powell, that's how much power the US dollar has, right? That there can be this massive market uprising based on even what he hints at. So imagine if Jerome Powell hinted that there's legitimacy to Bitcoin, aside from just being able to transact, digitally, maybe cross-border, maybe he's acknowledging that, right? You can probably acknowledge that. But if he's due to acknowledge, what they're doing in terms of inflation, what they're doing in terms of modern monetary theory, and how that doesn't really work, it never proven to work. It's kind of magical thinking, right? If they brought any of that to light, they would be 100% exposed, and they would tank the dollar, right? The stock markets are already precarious, right? You already see that when there's doubt in the stock market, people flood to crypto, right? Because they're growing in confidence with crypto. When everyone and look, I was on the other thing. I'm holding up my gold. I own gold.
Don't say his name. Don't say his name on this channel.
But that old shill, he'll say it's going to zero, it's a scam, but at the same time, it has not gone anywhere. It's not going anywhere. There's too many people that are into the technology, and too many people that fundamentally believe in what it stands for to go anywhere. So yes, there would definitely be a use case. First of all, you got to understand regulation. The actual, and you said a central bank digital currency, CBDC. That's the first time I heard that. Yeah. So CBDC. So the CBDCs would be heavily regulated. They'd also be, frankly, taxed. And the biggest reason to become a digital nomad, to become free, is to get out under the draconian boot of the US tax system, right? I'm not telling you to evade your taxes. I'm telling you to minimize your taxes. And obviously, if you became a citizen of another country, you could renounce your US citizenship and reduce your taxes severely. So what I'm saying is that that is a big push, and that's a big thing for crypto, right? And that's a big future for crypto and a huge opportunity for crypto, which they're not acknowledging, right? And they're not acknowledging that the taxes, the blood money they're getting from us, is the real thing that crypto is threatening, right? Forget about threats about drug dealers, forget about also the illicit activity crap. That's all fake news. It really comes down to taxes. And if you need to look any further, just look at how severely tax laws punished McAfee, right? All they were doing to get him on tax law, all they were doing to Epstein him, right? For taxes. I mean, once again, why is it so important? Why do they come down so hard on that? Why do they come down harder than on drug dealers for tax evaders?
And tax is basically like it's one of their ways that they can just control the money. It's one of the many ways, but it was funny. And again, and guys, if you're in the chat listening tonight, I'm going to be finishing that video, and I'll be a lot more technically thorough on it. But essentially, we have a lot of problems with the current monetary policy, right? I've talked about this a lot on my channel, and how this new technology is basically like literally God's gift to Earth, and they want to take that same technology and pervert it, and then turn it into like this disgusting abomination of a central bank digital currency. And the problem with that is, okay, so if you don't understand like something like how let's just take Bitcoin. So how the Bitcoin computing network works, all right? So everyone knows the buzzword blockchain technology, right? We don't have to really explain that so much, but it's really just in computer science, it's a linked list. And if you guys don't know what that means, it's pieces of data linked together, right? So it's constant throughout. So let's just say the first block from Bitcoin was mined in 2009, all right? You can traverse that list and you can see all records of all transactions throughout its history. It's immutable. It can't be deleted. It can't be changed, because that's just how a linked list works, all right? And so that's not the important part. That's the transparency part, okay? That's what makes these systems transparent. But the important part about the Bitcoin network is that it's truly decentralized. And what does that mean? Well, basically, like, it runs off of different nodes, so different computer servers. This software that supports all this, and the miners too, because basically to be a miner and to mine Bitcoin, you have to be running a full node and validating all these transactions. But these servers, or we'll just say nodes, are spread all throughout the world, literally everywhere. I mean, they're in like literally in Africa. They're in like strange places that are like really rural and hard to get to. They're not located in a central point of authority. They're not, just all owned by one company. And therefore, like, there's no door to go knock on, right? There's no door for the Fed to go and knock on. And so if the government gets mad about, let's just say, the total supply of Bitcoin being 21 million, they can't just go and just force people to just change the code. What has to happen is there needs to be a consensus. So a majority, which means 51% of the people that are running these mining rigs and running these nodes, have to agree on it. And then unless they're ever going to do something that's going to benefit everybody, they'll never agree on it. So with a CBDC, they would basically be utilizing that same blockchain technology. So they'd have all the visibility. In fact, they'd have more visibility from what people are using the dollar for than they actually have now. At the same time, if they were running smart contracts, which is basically what I believe they plan to do, let's just say that you're Jimmy, and they currently don't like you because you used whatever the bad word is that day. Yep. Sorry, Jimmy, we're gonna burn all the money in your wallet. You can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
Plenty of things like that. I mean, they can do that. They could have the ability to just say, okay, now we're just raising everyone's taxes, and even though you actually only owe like 24%, we think you owe 46% this year, so we'll take that out. Or at the same time, they could just change the code to say, all right, now we have $100 trillion in circulation. Now we have like 1 quadrillion, and boom, all of your hard-earned money that you worked for is devalued. So that's the big difference between that. And so, Andrew, I guess like, and they were talking about trying to regulate stablecoins specifically, which is ran off the Ethereum network. So since there's no place for these people to go, quite frankly, and knock on the door of, what can they do other than, I guess, like, can they harass the people who wrote the code for it?
Well, there are, right? Because they're doing it with, I mean, think about Ripple, right? Like if you're got a primary target that they can hit, right? It depends on how the coin is set up, right? If it's more of a decentralized versus a centralized coin, right? So, but that being said, without getting into the technical weeds on it, you are right. It's hard for them to hit. I imagine imagine the U.S. military like saying, okay, we have to take out Bitcoin. Like, how many Tomahawk missiles are going to fire?
You have to nuke the entire planet.
Right, exactly. Like, that's going to be hard. I did have some pushback of, if they wanted to stop this, they could turn off the power. I'm like, okay, but for who and where? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to do that in a lot of places.
Let's just say that because I hear that argument too. Let's just say that they do turn off the power in the entire world. All right. So when those servers go down, majority of the servers, if the people are smart, which I'm guarantee at least one of those servers has some regular backups on it. But if not, like probably more than 50% of them. But let's just say they don't have any backups. If the database and all that stuff falls, if they turn the lights back on, that information is still there, and it's just TikTok, another block all over again. It's just that time, the down period that it was down. Okay, then you can't use it. But when it goes back on, it's like it's all there again. So unless people really think that we're gonna have this like Mad Max, like the entire planet's gonna have no electricity or any sort of like power, then
in which case, and I tell people, because that's sort of the situation that, like, if we get in that situation, and look, is there a percentage chance? Yes. Is it a high percent? No. I think it's under 2%. And there was a guy, I think Caleb Jones is the guy who came up with the 2% rule, which is, if something's under 2%, don't worry about it. I don't worry about Mad Max. I mean, there's going to be a whole separate list of problems with Mad Max.
Right.
I assume
food.
Or solar flares, like some and a smart guy on my thing, he brought up solar flares. I'm like, that's a very real possibility. There is a non-zero possibility that we have a solar flare that severely affects infrastructure in the United States. Or around the world, right? Anywhere in the world, right? But once again, that's a very small percentage chance, and we have remedies for that. We have technological and informational remedies for that. We have backups, like you said. There will be somebody who saved that data in a way that's protected, that can reboot that system, right? And at the end of the day, here's the other thing I said when I was defending crypto. It says, I'm not going to come out here and be like a Bitcoin maxi or Ethereum or anything like that. I'm not going to tell you which coin is going to be the one that rules them all. Because if I try to make that prediction now, I see you over there, buddy. But the point of the matter is, regardless, if you ask me, is crypto still going to be here in 50 years? The answer is resoundingly yes, right? What's going to be the predominant one in terms of market cap? I can't tell you that. That's like, go talk to Charlie, go talk to somebody who does that. Maybe they'll be able to do that. But frankly, I don't think anybody could tell you with accuracy where it's going to be in 25 or 50 years.
Right, and technology changes like so fast. There's this thing called Moore's Law.
Yes.
It basically are you familiar with that?
Yeah, the basic concepts, but I might be useful to repeat it.
So basically, like, Moore's Law was established, and it was like at the time we were kind of like at the early infancy of computing power, and it was like every year computing power and processing capability is going to double. Well, we pretty much like after 2018, we've like that law is that law doesn't even like stand holding the ground anymore because we've like just 100x it over and over. So things change so fast, and there's no way to tell. But I would certainly say that as long as we have a centralized central banking system that is in charge of the entire world's monetary policy, there's always and they do nefarious things. There's always going to be a use case for things that people can just store in their brain to either transact with or to just hold their personal wealth, and they really don't like that stuff, right?
And once again, these are old people, because there's always a battle between the old and the young. And there's also, these are Gilded era, Victorian era institutions. Central banks are extremely old institutions. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to retain that power. They're going to fight tooth and nail to stay relevant, right? These elites, that have power and that are fighting. But also you got to remember at the same time, they're trying to get into crypto because they want to hedge their bets. They've got the resources, they've got the funding right now. So a lot of these people behind the scenes, I would be, I'll put money on this. I bet you Jerome Powell has some Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, dude. Look,
there's no fucking way he doesn't.
Peter Schiff has Bitcoin, dude. I would look, and the thing is too, I know his son has Bitcoin because he openly admits it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So when he tweets and it dips, he buys,
Yeah, he's probably like, those fuckers, they fell for it again. The thing about Peter Schiff is like he hates Bitcoiners and just the people in the crypto world, and they hate him back. But the thing is, like, everything that we believe, he believes too. And he sees it, man. And he's been seeing it since before crypto was even a thing. He just has gold, and that's what he knew, right? That's what he knew. And he's kind of like still kind of skeptical about it. But dude, I saw an interview with him last week from this guy I know named Mark Moss. And like Mark was kind of like changing his mind. He was like, look, we're on the same team, dude. Like, you don't I don't know why you hate us so much, because we literally believe the exact same thing.
Because he's selling a product. He literally makes money. Euro Pacific, Gold makes money selling gold, right? And look, I'm the type of guy who says, hey, look, that's why, I just held it up and I got, my Kruger Rand and I got my Ledger, right? I got both, right? I'm not telling you to like not buy one. I think it's very smart to own physical gold. There's different advantages to it, right? If I go to Zimbabwe, I know I'll be able to trade my gold, and if I ever wanted, to use it as a means of exchange, right? I'm not sure now. Eventually, I will be able to with crypto, but once again, right now, not as clear, right? There's different use cases, right? So I'm not saying, hey, put all your eggs in one basket, and hey, maybe you make crypto gains and you buy yourself a little gold, because the value is still going to be preserved. And Peter Schiff is exactly right about inflation and the Fed. He's right about the Fed. He's wrong about Bitcoin and crypto being a bubble. That there may be a bubble in terms of, scam companies or like .com bubble, sense that there's a lot of trash cryptos. There's, the Shiba, there's like crap coins, trash coins. But the crypto community is kind of woke to this. And the crypto community is based, but they're woke to the idea.
They know that those dog coins are just like degenerate gambling. And it's just like, it's like a fun Friday night. Like, dude, I got an extra $1,000. I'm just going to go do some degenerate gambling. That's it.
I'm going to go to the casino, and people should be allowed to go to the casino. That's the difference between me and Janet Yellen and me and Elizabeth Warren, with the whole GameStop thing. I'm like, if you want to do degenerate stuff, go to the casino. You should be bearing the risk of that, right? You bear the risk. When I went to Vegas, I was in Vegas, I played roulette and blackjack. I knew when I put money on roulette, I was actually showing my brother who never played roulette before. And I'm like, let's just come put some money down. We lost the money. But I put that money down knowing I was being a degenerate, knowing I was gambling, literally, knowing I could lose it all, right? I wasn't going in there thinking I'm investing and I'm going to double my money in an investment.
God, no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, look, if you're dumb enough to put your entire life savings in like, I don't know, a token like Cum Rocket, like as an investment, then I don't know that like this person probably has a lot of other things going like that they need to deal with as well.
Right.
Let me get caught up with the chat again real quick. Sam Perchinsky says, hopping on, and he says we're all equal when we have nothing. Yeah, guys, don't forget. Don't forget.
Great reset.
Yeah, don't forget that they removed that fucking video. You will own nothing and you'll be happy. Don't forget that, guys. Antonio says, I had to go to Djibouti and India.
Djibouti.
How do you
Djibouti.
Djibouti and India in the military. Makes me appreciate how we live here. I'm sure, man. I'm sure. Max says, poor Jimmy, because he got all of his wallet money taken by the Fed coin. Phil Goody says, yo. What's up, my friend? Cody Mouse says, shoot, I'm late. What's up, guys? What's up, Cody? Clay says, the data centers I've worked in have backup generators with contracted fuel deliveries. Built and been in more than a few in my 35 plus years in IT. Can't stop the data. No, like you really can't. And like, I was telling the guys the other night about this too. So I grew up from New Orleans, Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
And my 8th grade year in middle school was when we had Hurricane Katrina, and that was pretty significant hurricane. But dude, when we moved back to the city, we were without power for like 6 months, man. Ever since then, almost every motherfucker, even people that can't afford it, have generators over there.
Yep.
So like, and they all have fuel standby waiting. They all have like rice or those little saltine boxes and all kinds of MREs and shit, because they're just used to that shit now. And I've ventured to say that there's more people than just the New Orleanians that have,
We do it here. We did it here after my namesake Hurricane Andrew. We actually reformed the building codes, so now everything that's new has to have impact windows, has to be able to stand up. It's reinforced rebar. Everybody's got generators. Everybody's got supplies here. During Katrina, it's kind of funny because we were way ahead of you guys. So I was actually at a hurricane party when Katrina came through Miami. We actually got directly hit by it, but it was a Category 1. And because it was Category 1, that's a fucking joke here. All of our buildings are meant to stand that. I was driving. I probably shouldn't have been driving that night. But,
Category 1's nothing, man.
But for us, you know what I mean? There's some places, I've been in North Carolina, where they have trailers where the building codes aren't up. They're building right by the water and floodplains. That's a big deal. But, I'm glad to hear that people in Louisiana and Mississippi, too, learned, and now they have generators. Now they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, now they're woke. Antonio says the SEC is involved with Ethereum. That's why they started the case with Ripple. All right, so it's a good.
I haven't heard that one. That's a new one for me.
I can speculate on this. All right, so Antonio's right. I mean, okay, so obviously, like you mentioned before, Ripple, Andrew, like they're a company, right? So obviously they're gonna pick on Ripple because, quite frankly, they have the ability to. And honestly, the outcome of this lawsuit right now, that's gonna determine a lot of shit, man. In the future. So I'm actually like, I'm not really like a huge like Ripple fanboy. But like, I mean, I would hope that anyone that's in this like into the IT or into the technology or into crypto in general, at least hopes that they like don't lose that lawsuit.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is before we talk about Antonio's thing here, since we're on that topic, how do you feel about that lawsuit with the SEC and Ripple?
I mean, you're exactly right. I will say, I don't want to dramatize it because I don't think it's necessarily a death knell for Ripple and XRP, because the Fed has come out and there's actually, I forget who did it, but there were some people who are Fed adjacent, people around the space. They've come out and tried to differentiate Ripple from other cryptos and say, well, Ripple's different than Ethereum, different than Bitcoin. So we're not as worried about that. We're more worried about Ripple, and we're worried about things that look more like IPOs, things that look like IPOs without being IPOs. That's what they're really, concerned about. Frankly, still think it's bullshit, right? Still agree with you that it's better for crypto if it goes in Ripple's favor. I think it will go in Ripple's favor, and I will be covering that suit when it comes out. And I'm happy to come back on for that anytime to talk about that when it comes out. But it's better for crypto if it doesn't. But a lot of different cryptos, depending on how this ruling comes out, new crypto is going to take that into account. That's the cool thing about crypto, is that you can take into account the lawsuit and you can react. How fast can currencies react? I mean, that's like the dollar isn't reacting. The dollar's, the euro is like a dinosaur comparatively, to how quickly these currencies are able to be updated. Thinking about them as currencies, right? Thinking about Ethereum as, a means of exchange, EIP 1559, right? There's no EIP 1559 for the US dollar, right? It's going to have the same effect on the US dollar. That just doesn't exist, right? These things don't exist. The halvening, right? Imagine if the halvening happened for the US dollar. Like,
they'd be fucked because it goes against exactly what they want. They don't have the halvening. They have the doubling, and they do it every fucking 6 months now.
Yes.
But Antonio, okay, so about this comment. All right. So I've heard this I guess you could say it's a conspiracy theory, but okay. So let's just talk about, Antonio, the Ethereum network in a whole. Okay, so Bitcoin, and guys, if you want to call me a maxi, go ahead, but it's just a matter of fact that Bitcoin is literally the most decentralized protocol of all of these. Excuse me. But then I would say that Ethereum is the second most decentralized protocol, okay? And Ethereum is a lot more decentralized today than it was 2 years ago. And the same thing with Bitcoin, all right? Now, obviously, Bitcoin's been around a lot longer, so people have had more time to have more of these nodes being ran all throughout the world, all right? But the thing about Bitcoin, Andrew, and I guess I could try to explain it to you this way. Bitcoin had what we call an immaculate conception, all right? And what that means, without getting super cheesy, is no one really knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, or if he was even alive or still alive.
We still don't know, and whether that's not a person or a group of people.
Right, or exactly, or if it was a group of people, right? But regardless, the 1 million Bitcoin that's on this wallet has never moved since it was originally sent there, right? And so, I mean, he could be dead, or he could just be, I don't know, who the fuck knows? But there's no one knows who this is, right? And so, one, there's no centralized authority that someone can go and knock on the door. But two, there's no bishop, okay? If he were still alive, he would basically be like the Pope of the Bitcoin network. And anytime anyone wanted to propose a change, so if you're familiar with Bitcoin Cash and then just regular Bitcoin, yeah, that was a hard fork because the community had this debate. They were it went from originally that Bitcoin was supposed to be this medium of exchange and a currency, and then the other people were nah, it's a long-term store of value, and they had arguments over why they created the code the way that they did, and so they split. If Satoshi Nakamoto was alive, even though he couldn't just flip a switch and make the decision himself, if he spoke, people would respect him like a pope, right? They would treat him like a pope, and they would take what he said into consideration and probably use that to vote accordingly, right? Mm-hmm. And Ethereum still has a pope right now. They have Vitalik Buterin, so this guy is still alive, and he doesn't just make the policies for the code. That's still up to the people running the nodes and everything, but when he says something, people take it into consideration, right?
People listen. And he's got a lot of ETH. So, because he's got so much ETH, he still has a lot of sway. And yeah, no, I agree with you. It'd be like a spiritual leader. They wouldn't have to follow him, right? If Satoshi Nakamoto or whoever group is Satoshi Nakamoto, they would listen, and I'm sure that would help resolve issues, right? But I think there would still be forks, right? There would still be some forks. Maybe it wouldn't be called Bitcoin Cash, but there would still be, hey, we want to transact faster, right? Because Bitcoin's kind of slow, right? Let's try to do that, right? Let's try to resolve these problems. There would still be people trying to do that, and that's the beauty of crypto, right? Is you have these evolving cryptos that are trying to fill these different niches, like saying, okay, well, maybe we're not looking at Bitcoin as a means of exchange because it's not nimble enough. And as technology advances, like you said, so fast, we can go down to fractions of the speed of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like a turtle. But, it's still faster to do that than for me to take this gold and to ship it to Josh, even if he lives here in town. If I have to drive there, it's going to take me longer to get this gold to Josh than it would on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, for sure. But because of that, so Vitalik can, like you said, he can request that people make changes. People can lean towards a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. But Antonio, at the same time, I mean, I do myself a due diligence of running my own Ethereum node because I just believe in freedom, and I want to be able to have to be a part of that, right? I don't want someone to be able. The more people that run these nodes, the more free this protocol is, yes. Right? But with that being said, Antonio, I don't think the SEC can't really do anything because Ethereum's already way too decentralized. So I don't think that they're involved with ETH. What I think is that they're involved with USDC, which is essentially created by Coinbase. All right. And obviously they were speaking to them about it. Okay. Or actually Coinbase went to the SEC and they're like, hey, you guys kind of suck. Okay, this is the narrative. Hey, you guys, what you guys are doing over there at the Fed, this kind of sucks. So like, we can show you guys how to do it better. But Antonio, regardless, okay, so let's just say the real CBDC is a ruse and they go and they just turn USDC into CB, and that's the real central bank digital currency. Okay, that's fine. But their code is still on the Ethereum blockchain, and like we can go and look at it if we want. So if we don't approve of that code, we don't have to use that shit. We can just go use one of the 100 other like stable coins, right? Yeah. And also, well, apparently Ripple's getting involved with making stable coins too, but that's a topic for another discussion. Sorry, Antonio, that was and you too, Andrew. That was a long.
That's a good one, but it gets into the issue, and that's a legal issue. That's a regulatory issue. Like and once again, they tried to do these lawsuits. They are never going to be able to whack all the moles, right? Like it's going to be very, very difficult. They can make life, at this point, crypto's gotten to a threshold where they're never going to be able to shut it down permanently, right? They're going to be able to slow it down. They're going to be able to impede it, but certainly not globally regulate it. There's just too much into it and too much incentive for another jurisdiction to pop up with a coin that fills that niche and gets that market share.
Yeah, it's already like grown way too. It's like Bitcoin is like a black hole, dude, and it's also like cancer. It's just like it's spread everywhere way too fast, and it's like there's no way. If they had
Coca-Cola, they're Coca-Cola. I mean, like you can't take down Coca-Cola. I'm sorry, Coca-Cola will be here with the roaches.
Oh yeah, like, for sure.
They have a giant moat, and when you're first to market, there's a massive advantage. When you're first to market and you're successful, like that's it. McDonald's, Coca-Cola, same thing. Ford Motor. I mean, a lot of these things, when you get out there, they're going to be around. They may be in a different form, but they're going to be around.
Yeah, and if they wanted to stop it, they should have stopped at the beginning. And so that's over. Cody Mouse says, oh, he was talking to Clay. Excuse me. Wadlamer. I always pronounce your name in the chat wrong, dude. So I remember been calling you Mr. Perez. So excuse me. We'll do that. Also, people don't realize there are steel cable lines run alongside power lines that contain fiber optics fibers in them. This is Plan C. Yeah, I mean that's basically like that's AT&T's doing that as well. I don't know if we have that here or not. Do we have AT&T fiber here?
I think we're implementing it. I haven't checked on the status in a while.
Nick says Dims and the boomers are the worst. They think they know better than everyone else, and they need to protect you from yourself. Insufferable. Listen, Nick, I don't need any protection from myself. Quite frankly, if I wanna harm myself by dousing my body in a bunch of jelly and then just lighting myself on fire, I mean, I would like to have the ability to do that, even though that might not be the best thing ever. But hey, it's my life, it's my body, and these same people they push
my
that
body, my choice.
My body, my choice. All right, motherfucker. What about my money, my choice? My hours worked, my choice. My body, my choice. So like, if you want that same respect, which I'm willing to gladly and willfully give to you, then I also want the same thing in return. And then also, please leave me alone. Perez also says Hurricane Katrina only cut power here 2 weeks. I don't know where you live, but if you had a 2 week situation, then that's nice, dude. Lucky, man.
Here it was like 2-3 weeks, so it might be in Florida.
They went out in Florida too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I lost power in my family house in Coral Gables. I lost power for like 2-3 weeks. I actually flew to where'd I go? I was doing New York. I went to New York for a while back before it was as much of a shithole.
Damn, I didn't know it affected everybody down here too. I was over there being ignorant, but then Perez says, but ETH will eventually flip Bitcoin. Yeah, we're gonna see. The math is kind of there, so we'll see. Nick Sled says, 100 years from now, Satoshi Nakamoto will be a myth. Like Jesus, hey man, like seriously, man. There's like a one could say that this organization, they did one of the biggest steps in freedom for humanity that has ever existed, because before, we never had the ability to again put monetary policy into public hands, right? As opposed to just being the kings and the queens and the government. So hey man, maybe people will actually respect this guy. I mean, people already do, Nick, but maybe he'll be in a book sometime where people are like, yeah, that guy, he saved the world. Clay Buster says XRP gets deposed Hinman from, I'm not sure what that means, from the SEC in the lawsuit about the SEC's decision on XRP.
Okay, so I guess they're gonna get to depose somebody who's big in the SEC, So I mean, yeah, but once again, in a deposition, you can just usually what the government says is, I have no knowledge. It's like the whole I don't know, I have no personal knowledge. So the SEC is good at dodging. They'll dodge all day.
And so basically, the government can just use the same tactics in the courtroom that people could, right? The public could, right?
Yeah, exactly. They can kind of plead the fifth on something. I don't really know, or I can't say that, or something like that. So I don't put too much stake in what they're going to get out of the deposition, again, especially against the SEC.
We should like get together and watch that whenever they can end up finishing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Chick-fil-A delivery says if he's a person, hiding is the best option, considering he'd be incredibly valuable for ransom. I mean, what do you think about that?
I don't agree with that. I don't think ransoming him will be smart. First of all, who gets ransomed nowadays? The only people that were ransomed, you ever seen Captain Phillips? Was like, Somalis kidnapping, the boat captains because they're worth a lot to their company because they're highly skilled labor. So like they would definitely, go and pay for them, as a sort of thing. But I mean, okay, you've got Satoshi. Oh man, that sucks. There'd be people donating Bitcoin to the cause, but it's not it's not something any government's going to go out there and save this guy or.
I agree. Like, what are they going to do to him? I mean, I guess they could be like,
throw him in jail for what? Like, he become a martyr. That's even worse.
I guess they could say, all right, so you have this one. You literally have 1 million Bitcoin to your name, or I mean, again, they can't prove that. Nowadays, it would be easier for them to be able to pinpoint it to where they could have almost beyond reasonable doubt that it would be his wallet, but there would still be it wouldn't. I would say that it wouldn't pass in a courtroom, in my opinion, to prove unless it was through a centralized exchange, which didn't exist back then.
Yeah, I don't know how they could prove, but let's assume they could prove it. Let's assume they could tie it to him, right? I still don't know what they'd be getting him on, right? Like, what would he be charged on? What would the ransom be? Like, who's taking him? Like,
I don't know. I guess they could say like, hey, like the same thing they're doing with Ripple, like, hey, you created this like
No,
I don't know.
No, it's not the
security.
Thing. He didn't sell it. You had to work.
Yeah, you're right.
It has zero value until mined. That's the difference. That's a huge legal difference, right? That's why Hex is long Pulse. Richard Hart is putting Hex out at 0 in the beginning. That's legally. That's for. I mean, and once again, people are learning as time goes on. Like, hey, we need to start at 0 because then it's 0 value and then it accumulates, right? Versus putting it out as part of an ICO, right, which looks a lot like an IPO and it's got an ascribed value. And when you do something like that, you've got to go through a regulatory process if it's considered a security by the U.S.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess the only thing they would do is maybe if they didn't like him, they would just try to kill him to like do an example, get whacked. But I don't know. I mean, why did they whack? Okay, guys, we got to be really quiet now. But
are we talking about Epstein Part 2?
Yeah.
The Spanish edition?
Yep. Yeah. So why? Why did they do that to him? That's what I think, dude. Like, what the fuck? Like, you want to know why I think that they did that to him? I think they did it to him because he was too symbolic for freedom. It was like, yeah, okay, all right, IRS. I didn't get anything out of the tax money that I paid you guys. So for the next 6 years, I'm just not going to pay you guys any taxes. And he just straight up wrote them a letter. and told them that. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to arrest you. And he was like, nah, I'm going to get on my yacht, and I don't have a credit card or a bank account or anything of that, but I have crypto. So I'm just going to go sail the 7 seas and just do what I want. And they were like, hey, this dude's like, he's living a nice life and he's like outside of our system. I think we should just fucking kill him.
And that's the point. Actually, that's a great point there. Let me go on that, because that's a good model for people, is frankly, especially for normal people, me and you. I'm an average day, everyday guy. I mean, I'm not trying to be a John McAfee. You know, it'd be great if I have a platform as large as he does. But what I'm saying is that for you, for everybody out there, if you're just able to stay below the radar and don't directly piss off the IRS, don't tell, hey, IRS, I'm evading your taxes. Like, you know, you're waving a flag saying, hey, me, I'm a tax evader. You know, they're going to mostly leave you alone. There's too many people out there. They can't regulate everybody. It's not possible, right? There's too many Americans, right? John McAfee was a very big figure. He was trying to run for president. You know, he's a very well-known guy. That's much different. The people who get in trouble are the actors, celebrities who flaunt it, right? Who flaunt it. Those are the people who get hit.
Yeah, agreed. Don't tell Ryan Christensen that though, because he might tell you to be out there extra cautious. But I agree with you though. But another thing too about McAfee, it's like, okay, so he basically was against everything that they stand for. All right. And look, I'll get super tinfoil hat here. And again, guys in the audience, I still haven't made another tinfoil hat. So we'll just pretend I'm putting it on. In my humble opinion, Andrew, a majority of the things that go on in this entire planet right now, including Crab 17, I think all of it is just because of the monetary policy. And I think that in reality, if you follow the money, and you go all the way up to where the money comes from, I think people would be hard pressed not to have some pretty strong evidence as to who is behind a lot of the things that go on. And he was against all that. So yeah, he was very vocal about it. He was vocal about the SEC. He was vocal about the IRS. And at the same time, like another thing too, I heard, and I don't know if this is true, but apparently, you know, being someone involved in antivirus software, in order to basically be a counter antivirus software, you got to like put your software up in a bunch of other systems, right? All up in someone's computer, in their personal systems, right? And his software was on every computer. So, I mean, apparently he had a plethora of data of some people, you know, that were pretty high up in importance in the hierarchy of, you know, governmental systems all around the world. And I think that they also were kind of afraid of that too. But
yep,
other than that.
He knew a lot. I guarantee you that guy, he knew a lot of stuff. He wasn't even saying a lot of stuff he probably knew.
Yeah, and I think that if he were to say something, it probably would have. I think he purposely just didn't say things, but who knows? Antonio says something with Mark Berger, who used to be part of the SEC, is now part of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Yeah, but I mean that's not.
There's people who are part of the SEC who join investment banks, who join. You know, it's like the SEC. A lot of people, you go to the SEC, you leave. It's a big government administration. Like, so just because somebody happened to work there, that's not enough of like a causal link, right? And it might even be a good thing because they're trying to legitimize it. They're trying to make it, you know, more
that's what
accepted, right? Which is why, and which is good because they're proactively trying to get the U.S. to buy into it, right? And when you see, and think about it like this: when you see ads, when I go and I'm walking around, or even physically, I've seen signs for, you know, Kraken or something like that, right? You know, or other exchanges. You're seeing them more places. They're trying to get the normies to accept this, right? And that's when you get the SEC involved, because you want to make sure they buy into it before you get screwed.
Yeah, and plus it's kind of like having an insider to help you like know how to get around what they do that they don't allow people to do. Binance did the same thing. They hired like someone who was like high up in like the U.S. government for monetary policy, and Binance is still getting fucked around with. But yeah, Antonio, and also the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. I mean, that's not like you know, that's not a company. They're not an entity. They're basically just like a group of people who like who push code and help write code for Ethereum, which by the way there's over like 37,000 different people who've contributed to that code on their repository. You can go look. So it's not just them, but they're kind of the ones who are like, hey, we're gonna make an idea. Let's just decide EIP 1559. Let's get people to vote on it. They still don't make all the decisions. So I don't know, why. I don't know what the SEC could really do to them.
And that's the thing. It's transparent. You're going to be able, like you said earlier, you're going to be able to see the code, right? So it's like if they're trying to push something nefarious, like somebody's going to see it in the code.
Yeah, For sure. Cody Mass says Satoshi is already my Jesus. What do you mean? Babe Honker says it's all about control, and they don't want to lose control. Yep. We know. Pretty much everyone in here is pretty well.
And when you mentioned it about the Crab 17 or whatever, even in the book, the Sovereign Individual book, they talk about it straight up. They're like, yeah, it's the manufacturing of a virus, the manufacturing of a plague, of some sort of thing that shuts down world travel. Isn't that very convenient at a time in which people are pushing to be digital nomads? There's capital flight. There's people who are leaving their countries. There's more incentive than ever to be free and to get out and to go where you're treated best, to leave the U.S., to leave the collapsing Western countries. Isn't it ironic that that's exactly the time they shut the world down?
Yeah, it's funny that book predicted a lot of things. But speaking of digital nomadism, or nomadism, however you want to say it. So how do you, first of all, Andrew, how do you feel about digital nomadism? And I'll say my personal belief, you as a lawyer, I believe that your skills could be still used, remotely, like literally, and then also, how do you feel about that, about someone who is like working as a digital nomad, going from point A to point B? They don't really have like a centralized point of, residency, or maybe they do. Maybe they have, a place back in the States. How do you feel about that from a legal perspective, as far as like the tax laws and just like, do I have to get a license plate and shit in Florida still if I, just own property there, or what?
I mean, there's a lot of potential for someone like me. And let me be full disclosure here. My definition of a digital nomad is someone who can be relatively location independent, or location independent enough. Right? Maybe you're not traveling every single day, but the ability to say, hey, I want to go and spend 2 weeks here, I want to spend a month here, I want to spend a year here, and that's totally cool. That's totally fine, right? Crab 17 aside, right? Crazy restrictions aside, although they will remain in the future. But that's the definition of what it is, and I think everybody should aspire to that. But that being said, I think that is going to end up being the elite in this world. The elite in this world will be the digital nomads. They will be the people that are freest to move, right? The people who have maximum freedom are the people who are willing to say, hey, this is not working out for me. I wish you the best. Peace. And you're going to leave. Currently, to do that, there's a lot of different strategies to do that. I think it's going to become easier and easier. I mean, there's a difference between citizenship, which is actually having a passport in a country, and residency, which is there for work. But even for a digital nomad, you can go place on a tourist visa if you're from a country with a strong visa program, maybe the U.S. or European countries. You can go places for 3 months, work there, and then move when the tourist visa runs out. And you're not violating any laws because you're not working in that country. Your work is online and is everywhere. It's not located physically in that country. So you're not violating any laws, right? I think it's going to be the smart way. I think it's going to be the way that a new elite class works. And crypto is a vehicle for that elite class to transfer their wealth seamlessly, right? To send money to different fiat currencies. I mean, look, I've even done this when I've traveled abroad already, because crypto can be sent like this. The SWIFT system, trying to send thousands of dollars across borders is a goddamn nightmare, right? It's absolutely a nightmare. But sending it, to an on-ramp in a different country, and then on-ramping it in the United States and off-ramping it in Japan, let's say, I'm just making up a country, right? Is much easier than wiring that money, right? And it's going to cost you less in transaction fees, right? Especially as Ethereum, EIP 5059 drops those costs, right? As other networks come out to drop those costs. I think it's absolutely the legal strategy you want to take, not just to protect your wealth, but to protect your freedoms. Because once again, imagine just having it, forget about a passport, just imagine having another country that you're comfortable going to like that. When the US gets crazy, you're comfortable just getting in a plane and going, or some other country where you're just capable of going. That is ultimate freedom, to be able to say, I'm going to go there and it's going to be fine. If this country's getting too wacky for me, I'm out. Because even here in Miami, it's based country, but we're in the United States, and the United States is going a certain direction, right? So having that plan B is what I call in the legal world risk mitigation, right? The easiest thing for me to sell people is mitigate your risk. It's cheaper than an attorney. And look, you're exactly right. There's going to be a need for certain types of lawyers, certain types of people, but it's going to eliminate a lot of lawyers' jobs. It's going to eliminate a lot of people who are doing tax law, for example, when they have to greatly reform the tax code to catch up with this. There'll be niches here and there. There'll be opportunity here and there, but for the people that seek it and for the people that value freedom, right, and independence.
Yeah, and like a lot of people don't realize, like, You know, a lot of jobs, not all right. I'd say probably like 30% of jobs right now can be done digitally, but a lot of people don't realize that their job is actually like in these categories. So like, again, are you talking about being a lawyer, man, one of the most beneficial things that someone could probably have if they were a digital nomad is a pretty solid lawyer who they can talk to on a consistent basis and just ask questions to if they need to get out of a bad situation or just straight up just need literally legal advice of how not to get in trouble, right? So what's one thing a lawyer could do is like they could literally just be a consultant lawyer. They could just consult people. Their clients could just be in a similar situation like them or just wherever. And, you know, a 1 hour phone call that you have to pay somebody $200 for could save you, you know, thousands later. That's a pretty good use case right there too. Sales also, like if there's something that needs to be sold, you know, people in sales you don't need to be in an office to do sales, man. Like you don't. I'm sorry. Like, you know, if you have a phone, then there's no need to be in an office. Right. And pretty much most things are done on computers. I mean, all these kind of jobs are like that too.
There'll always be some in-person sales because there's a power to, you know, images and personal connection, body language, you know, like when you're in person, there's just something to say. It's like, for example, I don't care what they say during Rona, but, you know, having a FaceTime date is not the same as a real date, right?
No,
you know?
Definitely not.
That's not the same thing. Sorry, guys. You know, because there's other things going on. And part of that is sales. But fundamentally, you're exactly right. And most of our purchases, if you look at the volume of purchases, it's swung, especially during Rona, wildly digital. And everybody's gotten comfortable with digital purchases, right? They've had to. They've had no option. The boomers that didn't want to adjust, they've had to figure out how to do Zoom. I work with corporate clients. They complained and we're never going to do it. But now they've been forced to do it. So they can't say they don't know how to do it or have no capability to do it because they've now been forced to do it. And in that way, I say everybody who bitches about, you know, the Rona, everybody who talks, oh, the beer bug was the worst thing to ever happen. I say it's great because it moved us light years forward in terms of adopting an information age style strategy. I work with a company that has said straight up that, and other law firms have said this, that they have people that are refusing to come back to work. They're saying, I want to work remotely because I know I can do my job remotely.
Oh yeah, dude, I got plenty of clients who are in this situation. Dude, not like I've been so hard. So, you know what I kind of do with developer direction and like the whole group where we have guys teach them how to code, yada, yada, yada. Right. But so we do a lot of like, even the people who already have jobs in the group, they just go and passively like look at interviews and just kind of interview places just to kind of like do some data and reconnaissance for like what's going on in that current market at that current time. And dude, me and other guys, we haven't been able to find a single job that's like a software engineer or a developer position that's not remote. Literally, I've probably interviewed at at least 30 places in the last like 2 or 3 months, and they were all remote positions. And on top of that, too, I mean, I got guys who would just be like, "Yeah, if they tell me to come in the office, I'm leaving," because there's such an abundance of these jobs elsewhere that are remote. Like, who the fuck's going to abide by that?
Yeah, F you, I'm out. You know, it's like, and that's sort of my position. I've talked to people else. I'm said, if everybody gets together, even jobs that aren't necessarily like programmers, developers, even people that used to go to offices, right? If everybody was like, F you, I'm out, they're going to have to make that change.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's going to force it, and it's going to force it in a good way because this whole office mentality, this whole thing, and also pulling from cities that were detrimental to society. New York City, the most toxic city ever in terms of regulatory power, the confiscatory government, you know, horrible corruption, you know, they profited off of people going to office buildings. And when all those people are down here in Miami, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the ability to go out without a mask, you know, just enjoy your life, you know, and go to the beach, go in the water. I mean, they can't get them back to New York. They can't because they've lived down here and they know it's better, hands down. I got
a bunch of neighbors who basically came here from New York and they're like, yeah, there's no fucking way we're going back. But yeah, dude, I've seen quite a few companies like basically crawfish on what they said they were going to make people come back in. And then people are like, all right, we're leaving a week later. Oh, we've changed our mind. Or they say, oh, we've pushed it back. We're going to push it back until September. And everyone knows they're going to pull Crab 21 over again in this fall. We all know that. So everyone just knows that like, okay, let's just push.
It's going to be a cycle. It's going to be a cycle. Yeah. They're going to get the Fauci juice going. Everyone's going to be buying the Fauci juice every year, the yearly shot. That's just the way it's going to be. That's where everybody's angling. That's why the EU is doing their thing. That's why the IATA, I covered this on my channel, but the International Airline Travel Association, I believe, they're already floating a passport sort of type of digital passport. They're trying to push this. They're going to try to do it.
Yeah, God, Jesus Christ. Speaking of, okay, so the digital nomad thing. I mean, if you can just like swiftly and efficiently and effectively just move from place to place and go wherever is going to treat you better, you're probably not going to have to deal with this unless you have to come back, for whatever. And then I guess if and when you come back, then okay, then you'll have to deal with it. But I mean, that's also your personal choice as to whether or not you want to come back. One thing I wanted to say also about the digital nomadism, Andrew, is like, do you think that and you've mentioned it literally the first like 5 minutes of the show, but obviously we know that the good old Uncle Sam and the U.S. government, they do some quite illegal things that they should not be doing, right?
Yes, very.
Do you think that people that are trying to essentially escape the system that they have created, these digital nomads, the sovereign individuals, these people, do you think that they're going to pursue these people legally, and can they?
I think, well, yes, but how? And the question is, how are they going to do it? Number one, and when are they going to do it? And that's why my thing is for you, and I advocate this to a lot of people, is have your plans sooner than later. Because the later you think about it, and even if you're just starting to draft up your plan, think about ideas, even if you're doing, Aaron Clarey has this book, Reconnaissance Man, that he wrote about going to different states in the United States. You can apply that globally, right? You can apply that globally. So if you even just go to Colombia, you're like, hey, I think I like Colombian women, Colombian food. I think that might be a cool place for me to live. Go there, check it out. Feel it out, see what it is, see what's required to get a residency there, or maybe, any sort of long-term program there. There's some places where you can go study Spanish and get an educational visa for like 2 years, and that could be an emergency exit valve, right? Hey, I can pay you $100 or not $100, for $500 for a 2-year, Spanish visa to live in Colombia. And hey, if stuff gets crazy here, I got beautiful Colombian women and, nice Latin food, and I'm out of the United States. Just think about it, because it's the people that are not prepared when they shut down the borders. It's going to be an issue. Australia, people don't know this. Right now, I'm working with a good friend of mine from Australia who's in there. Australia has made it illegal to leave Australia. I'm going to say that one more time.
I'm glad you said that.
You cannot leave Australia without applying for an exemption, which they are not guaranteed to give you. If they deny you, yes, you can challenge it. But once again, normal people don't have thousands of dollars to spend on lawyers to challenge exemptions, right? It's very difficult. They're requiring you to go out, and just putting that barrier of the fact that you can't leave unless you apply, that is a massive lockdown. Now, they are a country that has a water border. They're an island, right? So it's harder to get off islands. Japan, Australia, New Zealand, they can do that easier, right? That's a lot harder in the United States. Frankly, if I really wanted to get out and I wanted to cross the border to Mexico, I could do it the reverse way, right? It's not impossible for me to do that, right? Or I can just get on a fucking boat and I'll just boat down to Mexico and no one's going to give a shit. And then I'll hop on a plane, fly wherever the fuck I want to fly, right? Because those countries are going to let me do it. I don't care if I have to get down to El Salvador and pay with my volcano Bitcoin. I'm going to get there and I'm going to do it. Exactly,
Dude, part of my ideal escape plan involves having property in like one of those countries. And I was actually looking at El Salvador because the prices for homes there are like insanely cheap compared to us. I just figured, I don't know, just go get some volcano bonds, pay for it with my volcano bonds.
Yeah,
but
because most of those countries, if you invest, and I'll just say it for everybody who doesn't know, one of the easiest ways to get even citizenship in other countries, which by the way, citizenship is always available, but for a price. So for example, there's certain islands, Antigua, St. Kitts, that offer you a passport for $100K, right? $150K, $100K, you're going to get a passport. They're going to give you a passport. But other countries like Mexico, El Salvador, Panama, if you just buy a house there or invest a certain amount in bonds, it might even be a small amount, like $50K or $100K in just bonds. They'll give you residency. And residency is almost as good as citizenship. In fact, many times you want the residency, not the citizenship.
El Salvador's price is three Bitcoins right now, I think, for citizenship.
I think that's what they said. Did they pass that bill? Do you know?
I don't know yet. I have to dude, I haven't been keeping up with the whole El Salvador thing.
I know that's what they said they were going to do. I just didn't track whether it was but I mean, that would be great. 3 Bitcoins? I mean, that's like awesome.
Yeah, it could end up being the most expensive passport people have ever paid, but now it's not too bad of a deal, right?
I'm sure they'd adjust it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned the thing about people can't leave Australia. All right, so that's pretty sus, right? If the United States,
that's a giant red flag.
Yeah, right. First of all, okay, so do you think that the Australian government cares about the surrounding countries with their deepest heart, and they don't want their people to leave because they don't want their diseases to spread?
No, they're actually, it's the inverse. They're afraid of the Delta variant, right? And they're afraid of that coming to Australia because the case numbers have fallen in Australia. Actually, that's the crazy thing about Australia. People don't realize how insane this is. The numbers have fallen. There's actually provinces or regions in Australia where there are literally no COVID, no Rona, deaths, right? And even though that's the case in certain areas for certain periods of time, they've increased the lockdown. They've extended the lockdown. So that's the really scary thing. It's all okay for your health to protect you from the outside. Once again, you're getting very 1984, getting very Big Brother. They don't care about that. They care about control. They care about preventing the escape. And that's why I say you guys should be ready. I think now is a great time to formulate your plan. So when the doors open, you know which ones you're walking through and which ones you're not walking through, right? Australia used to be a country which I could think, hey, I might immigrate to Australia. There's lots of cool stuff about Australia in terms of its natural beauty. I love to scuba dive. I love the water. I like, nature. There's lots of cool natural stuff in Australia. But would I deal with the Australian government and they're like crazy amount of feminists and they're, absolutely ragingly Marxist government? Hell no.
I agree. And I think it's weird that they would just want to prevent people from leaving. I mean, quite frankly, if they did that here, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did eventually, that's illegal, right?
That's illegal. That's unconstitutional. That's unconstitutional to prevent people from leaving. Now, what other countries could do, I'm sure the EU would do it, is collude to keep us out of other countries, right? And say, okay, we're all going to shut down. But guess what? That one country that opens, that Dubai, that Singapore, that country that's like, no, we're just going to be open and we're going to, if you have the money, you can resources, you can come. That country is going to profit massively.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they're going to have a lot of smart people go in there, too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let me get back to the chat. Mr. Perez says Binance is corrupt. That's why they're getting exposed. Yeah, Binance is pretty sus. That's a topic for a different time, though. But, I guess it could be a topic for now, but I don't want to sit around and harp on Binance. I mean, whatever you feel about CZ, whether your funds are safe or not safe, that's a personal opinion, I guess. Cody Mouse says 100% Crab 17 was the best thing to happen in my lifetime. Yeah, I'm
so glad to hear that. I'm really glad when people say that.
Dude, me too. It was for me too. It ended up that was 2020 was some of people's worst years. That ended up being one of my best years of my life, dude. I made a bunch of progress in it, and it was all because of that. And I think it's funny because, like I said earlier, I think all of this stuff. I think Crab 17 was just a bunch of fugazi to give them some time to reset their failing, awfully disgusting monetary policy, and they just couldn't do it.
The Great Reset. Yep. That's part of this. All of this is part of it.
And they actually ended up helping a lot of people out too. They don't realize, but were the people that got helped out were the smart ones, though.
That's right. So Cody, they helped the smart people. They screwed over the sheep. The normies are getting screwed.
So Cody's definitely not a normie. Zubari says, off topic, how do you choose a programming niche? Okay, so honestly, man, I don't really have a programming niche. What I've done professionally in my career as as a developer, in the corporate world, has not been. I've been doing .NET development, and any program I do outside of work, trust me, is not .NET. All right. I did .NET because that's what I got my first job at, and that's where all the huge, heavy corporate application money is just .NET. So if you're asking for that for work, then I guess your niche is going to be whatever you get involved in, but you're also going to be whatever job you're at. If you're a developer, you're going to be touching all kinds of different stuff no matter what. So, but if you're talking about your personal niche, it's whatever you think, whatever you are most interested in developing. So I don't know, let's just say you want to develop stuff for crypto. Your niche would be whatever technology you believe is the best fit for that sphere of development. So, okay, so if I really like smart contracts, and I think Ethereum is the best platform for smart contracts, then my niche would just be something like that. Or, if you're doing mobile development, what do you want to do? iOS development, and then that is going to be your niche. How do you figure it out? That's going to be on you, man. So
it's on market analysis. With finding a niche, you got to do market analysis. You got to evaluate it. Sometimes you're not going to do necessarily what you love, but you'll do something that'll make you money.
Go where the money is if it's for work.
Yep.
Pretty says again, refugees coming in force. Oh man, we have a bunch of comments that I missed up over here. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Babe Hunger says it's planned to end in 2025. Yeah, we'll see, dude. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then he says Canada just announced buying more we'll just say Fauci juice over the next few years. I'm gonna start using that. I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Perez says it's the Depop agenda. I'm talking that shish, not going to corrupt my my DNA. Yeah, dude. What, man? So you didn't get any of the Fauci juice, man? I got like 100 of those. Come on, what are you talking about? WTF? Wade Embry says Australia. Wow, what's up, Wade? Nice to see you tonight. Matt W says yo, better late than never. What is up, my friend? Glad you're doing good. Perez also says I want to buy lifeboat or houseboat. Yeah, okay, yeah. I think that's I think that like one of the best things you could do if you wanted to be able to leave is just get a boat. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and a lot of people have talked about that as a strategy. It's great. You just have to be very cognizant of where you're going to do that and the countries that you're planning to go to. Because if you go to one that's like kind of hard lockdown its borders, it's going to lock down every port of entry. So just make sure that you're knowing where you want to be, right? So it'd be a lot different in the Caribbean versus in Southeast Asia, where they're going to give less of a F.
Yeah, and also like I mean, if you're stuck on that boat and make sure that and you can't get anywhere, you need to make sure you have supplies and stuff too. Yeah. So it says V for Vendetta. Oso Chain, better late than never. Orange pill, licky tongue emoji in the chat. What's up, man? Good to see you. Max Ignisa says most programmers' jobs only use a subset of their actual technical skills. That is actually a fact. Good to see you again, Max. I don't know if you were in. I think you were in here at the beginning, but good to see you again now. All right, Andrew. That was a great interview. I'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever. Where can people find you at? Where can they reach you at?
So you want to reach me, there's two main places you can reach me at, right? You can reach me at my YouTube channel, right, which is Legal Mindset. So follow me at Legal Mindset. I stream there every day, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. I cover the news. I cover any topics. That's like every single day I'm coming to you with the best news, what's happening right now, what you really need to know about. But my censorship-free platform, and I'll drop it in the private chat so Josh can copy it over into the main chat. But it's actually my locals channel. You guys really should check out that platform. It's an uncensored platform. So when I go on there, I literally have a guy who's like an expert with the Fauci juice and all the considerations and stuff about that. We drop facts in the locals group because we can't drop them in the actual YouTube channel because we will get demonetized. I had a community guidelines strike for just explaining the difference between full FDA authorization and emergency use authorization and explaining how that applied to the Fauci juice. That's like a very interesting legal difference because right now what we're putting in our bodies is not even fully approved by the FDA. And there's like, even if you think the FDA is trash, that's like sub-trash level, So it's like we haven't even passed the trash level. We're like below trash. So, once again, you're taking those, you're assuming those risks. And YouTube doesn't want me to talk about that. They don't want you to talk about that. They don't want you to know about that, right? Even though it's pure facts, it's not opinion. It's not opinion at all. It's law and it's facts. And there's also certain law that protects the people that make the Fauci juice from liability. They're completely immune from liability regarding the Fauci juice. So I talk about all that sort of crazy stuff. We talk about solar flares. We talk about crypto. I argue with boomers and Gen X on crypto. They're still, here's the funny thing, Josh. More and more people are going to come around. It's just a matter of time. The thing I hear from these people is stuff that people like you are going to be working on. Things and protocols to make it more safe for them, to make it more comfortable for them to access, to make it look familiar. When Coinbase looks and all these, Coinbase is horrible. But when all these apps look as easy as Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and when there's some sort of ability to insure, I think that's going to make a lot of people comfortable. If there is, some way to kind of insure or protect, your bags, I think that would be a huge product, right? That's a huge something you can put out there. I think that's going to bring a lot of the normies in. and I see people turning around on it because they're beginning to understand how smart it is and how it's going to protect them and give them more agency and freedom personally, legally, business-wise, everything. So it's a lot of opportunity.
People rejected the internet when it first came out, right? They were like, hey, who the fuck's going to use that? I got my library and my books.
If you told the U.S. Postal Service in 1970 that email was going to replace them effectively, that mail was going to be for junk and trash, and that the real communication was going to be via email, they would have laughed in your face. They would have said, people want something physical. Oh my God, no one's ever going to want to give up a physical piece of mail. I literally throw all of my mail into the trash unless it's a bank card, Or
a package. But other than that, that's it.
That's it, So once again, these things are going to be replaced. It's just a matter of time. Central banks, sorry, you're going the same way, buddy.
Yeah, and on that note, guys, seriously, guys, what he said, people are going to come around. They already are. All right, this space is literally moving faster than the inception of the internet did in its equal time frame of being alive. So, and mark my fucking words, guys. If the current monetary policy goes the same way that it has been going, which it will, because they don't know how to fix that shit. I have no idea what that is. You hear that? Oh my God.
There was a fire alarm. I had to mute it. There's a fire alarm test in my
fire. It's because it's a fire alarm because Christian Soto put fire emojis in the chat.
That's literally when it went off.
But in all seriousness, guys, it's going to still keep going the same way that it has. All right. And if it does, and you don't decide on your own before it gets to a really bad point that you're going to start understanding how these things work and just getting into it, at least, and I'm not saying for people to put their entire life savings in, okay? At least understanding how this stuff works, you're going to be forced to in the end. And guess what? The price of Bitcoin right now is like $31,000. It's actually, I would consider that to be pretty cheap right now for what its actual value is. All right, that's already more than the average person can afford, just like casually, right? And if you think that's expensive now, imagine how much one Bitcoin is going to cost when that cost is equal to your freedom. So that's it, guys. That's all I have tonight. Andrew, you got anything else for the fellas out there?
You gotta end on a high note, guys. I really love, and Josh is a guy who I've known for a while. I really want to do a collaboration with him. So I'm so happy that I was able to come out here and talk to you guys. Your chat is extremely intelligent, extremely based. It's really good to see all these guys. And there's some guys I know, some guys I don't. But, I'm happy to come back and talk with you, Josh, because you're one of those guys that, I love talking with people who have different but complementary skill sets. And there can not be more of a complementary skill set than learning how to code, learning how to program, right? That's exactly what people need in the future.
Beep boop. It's fire sign.
And that's why they want to shut it down, guys.
Yeah, that's them, dude. That's them turning the fire alarm. I hope you guys enjoyed that tonight. Guys, go to Legal Mindset's YouTube page, give him a subscription. Guys, he's not just some random guy that I asked to collab with me. Andrew's my personal friend. I fucking love this guy, and he is the most based lawyer that you'll ever meet. So we'll definitely have him back. And that's it, guys. Good night. We're out. Later.